Hello and welcome back to Blacklight Guitars and Repair, and today we're checking out my first 70s Gibson on the channel. I picked this one up locally. I'm excited to check it out. This is a 1974 Gibson Les Paul Deluxe in Tobacco Sunburst. It's pretty cool. Alright, let's check it out. So this one came up for sale locally, and it was a bit out of my price range, but I talked to the seller and we managed to work out kind of a trade deal with some cash on top. So yeah, let's check it out. Comes in the original case, and these original 70s Gibson cases were just kind of unbranded. They didn't have the Gibson logo, but it is an authentic case. I'm going to be a little careful here because it's missing the inside strap. There we are, just rested against my mic stand. And there we go. So yeah, a 1974 Gibson Les Paul Deluxe in Tobacco Sunburst. A bit of a rare color too. A lot of the Deluxes this year were gold tops. They also had Cherry Sunburst, Tobacco Sunburst, and a couple other colors. So this is a little bit more of a less common color. And it looks great. It's just nice and faded, with a nice brown border and kind of an iced tea looking color for the top. So if you're not familiar with the Les Paul Deluxe, they were released in 1969, and they have similar specs to like a Les Paul Standard, except for the biggest difference is they use these mini humbuckers. And these guitars were made in the Gibson Norlin era, so they have some kind of unique specs that are different than any other era of Gibson, and we'll get into those in a bit here. As far as condition goes, it's in really nice condition. It's got like dings and checking and, you know, honest wear for how old this guitar is. And this wasn't a collector like in a case in the closet guitar. This was gigged. This was owned by a musician who played it quite extensively, but he kept it in very, very nice condition. It's got the original knobs with the thumb bleeders, the top hat golden reflector knobs, and I think, yeah, everything on this guitar is original except for the machine heads. These were replaced with Schallers. Here, let's give the guitar a quick flip. And the back has got lots of buckle rash. So basically, buckle rash is when it goes all the way down to the wood. Buckle worming is when you see impressions in the finish, but this is all the way down to the wood. And then around the edges too. So someone took care of this guitar, but also they played it with a belt buckle, so they weren't afraid to play it on stage. So the back is definitely a little bit worse than the front. It kind of looks like a Murphy aged. That's kind of what they're trying to emulate when they do that. And this is a Norlin era, so it does have the pancake body. Pancake body means that they sandwich two big slabs of mahogany against each other. That's just kind of one of the build specs they did back in those days. And it's also got a 3-piece maple neck, which again is a unique kind of Norlin era spec. A lot of people really like maple necks because they're a little stronger than mahogany. And then we've got our volute there, and those are our Schaller tuners that have been swapped on here. I'll have to take one out to see if they reamed any of the holes to make them bigger, or if they left them the same. And then there's a look at our serial number. Now this is the era where you can't really reliably date a Gibson from the serial number, but I did have a look at the pot codes and confirmed this was a 1974 from the pot codes. This was originally sold to me as a 72, but I don't think the original owner quite knew how to date it. It's also got a lot of wear on the neck from play, so you can see it wore right through the finish here at the bottom. So yeah, it's in decently good shape, especially on the top, but this guitar was extensively played. And it's got kind of a unique smell to it, so it smells like laundry, and I couldn't figure out why, but in the little storage cavity here, there's a bunch of dryer sheets. So this whole guitar smells like it just came out of the dryer, but with like tobacco undertones. I think the owner used to smoke too, so he kept that to make it from smelling like smoke, but it's pretty much combined with both. It has a smell of like tobacco and laundry detergent, which might sound gross, but it's kind of pleasant. And the case itself is in pretty decent shape. It's missing that internal strap that keeps the top, open when you try to open it and not flop over. But overall, it closes okay. The latches work okay, and pretty decent shape. But all right, let's go ahead and get on the bench and take this thing apart and see what makes it tick. These era Deluxes are known for being ridiculously heavy, so let's see how this one fares. Wow, very good weight, considering it's weighing in at just a hair over 9 pounds, or 4.122 kilograms. All right, let's see what our Gibson or mini buckers are reading. So in the bridge position, it's about a 5.87. Neck position, about a 7.33. And the middle, about a 3.25. Here's a look at our ABR1 bridge. It's got the wire retainer keeping the saddles in place. And these are actually brass saddles. They came chromed over, but over time that they are worn down, you can see the brass saddles are exposed there. And our bridge still has the radius in there. It hasn't collapsed totally, maybe a little bit, but there's still enough radius in there that I think it's alright. What can happen over time is the tension on these bridges kind of flatten them out, so they're just fully flat. If you put them against a straight edge, they'll just be totally flat against it. And then you have a little bit of problems with like buzzing because it doesn't follow the natural radius of the fingerboard. This one's good. And here's a look at the tailpiece. It's a super lightweight tailpiece, and the casting mark looks correct, so I believe this is an original part as well. And the ABR1 bridges are just drilled directly into the body, much to like the vintage Gibsons all have that, like the bursts, that kind of a thing. And here's a look at our bridge pickup. So yeah, it's all original, and that's another clue that this is a 1974, because in 1975 they actually switched this into like an engraved pickup with a patent number stamped into the back. This one has the old sticker style, so the pot code's dated to a 1974, and this spec also shows that it's pre-1975. So it's pretty safe to assume this is a 1974. And then here's a look at our bridge cavity. So the way the pickups are mounted is they use this bar that's mounted into the wood of the guitar, and these are a little piece of foam. This is the original foam. It's really hard, but still usable and in good shape. And then the pickup screws just screw into the little bar there. And you can see here there's a nice big thick piece of maple used for the top. The top looks like it's a 4-piece top, just judging by the seam lines. You can see one here and here, so 1 piece, 2 piece, 3 pieces, and then another seam line here, so 4-piece maple top. And our pickup rings appear to be in nice shape, no cracks or anything else like that. And they're quite thick. And the neck pickup lead is a little tight, so I don't want to pull on anything and damage anything. But there's a look at the pickup. More of the same. We've got that patent pending sticker on there. And here's a little better look at the neck pickup route. We've got our transitional neck tenon there, which is a little bit longer than the short, but not quite as long as the long, which is period correct for this year. And then another look at the foam and the cavity. No marking in either cavity on this one. Here's a look at the single ply cream pickguard. Everything looks good there. It looks original. It's all kind of aged. And then here's a look at what it looks like with no pickguard on. So it doesn't look like the finish has aged that much, because usually when when a guitar has been like in direct sunlight or something like that, it's a lot more faded on the outside of the guitar, not under the pickguard, because the light hasn't got there. So this one hasn't faded too much due to sunlight or anything else like that. The poker chip and the switch tip all look original. And here's a better look at our knobs with the original thumb bleeders. The output jack has been replaced. This would have originally been plastic, although they do tend to break a lot on these guitars, so a lot of people replace them with metal. So that is a replaced part. And I just want to talk about these pickups a little bit. So these are dual coil pickups, so they are hum canceling. They use Alnico 2 magnets, and it's a little different than, like, say, a PF. PF humbuckers use the individual pole magnets, but the mini humbuckers have a single bar magnet underneath with steel pole screws and a steel blade. They're supposed to be a little bit brighter in tone with more clarity but less output. Compared to like humbuckers, the mini buckers are supposed to have like a tighter bass, enhanced mids, smoother like treble response, and they have less output, making them a little bit more dynamic, a little more articulate. They kind of sit somewhere between a P90 and a humbucker. And the top looks pretty straight, like pretty plain from straight on, but if you get it in the light just right, you can see there's a little bit of flame in there, and it kind of dances depending on how you move it. And here's a look at the pickup cavity. A little oxidized and corroded in terms of the potentiometers, but they're all clean and they work nice. All of the wiring appears to be original, and you can tell I scraped off this pot coat, and I got a pot coat off of that, and then this one's kind of covered by soldering, but this one is very clear. 1974. Let me see if I can get a better look at that. Yeah, right there, if you can see, it's the 4th and 5th digit of the pot code that dictates the year. So this one says 1974. So that, combined with the sticker on the pickup, makes it pretty certain that this is a 1974. And the route looks nice and clean. We can see our maple top on the edge of the route there. And then here on the sides you can see there's the two-piece mahogany body with the sandwich stripe, which you can also see on the side here. And here's a look at the cavity plate, which is just the brown ones they were using in this era. That's an original part. And here's a look at our pickup selector cavity. Nothing too interesting, but the route looks clean and the part looks original. And the screws in the back plate were actually replaced with some weird long black ones, so I switched them out with some similar ones. And the fretboard and the frets are looking good. It looks like it has recently had a fret level and a recrown, because there's no like wear on the frets, but they look to be a little lower than normal. So I'll tell you what I mean. These frets are known for being wide and flat, but on the 12th fret area you can see there's still some nibs attached to the frets, but then the further you go up, those kind of disappear. So that's usually the end result of a level and recrown. And the frets are low, but there's still life left there. So it's probably going to be a while before you have to refret it. And the fingerboard is super nice piece of rosewood. It's got a lot of character to it, a lot of red in there. It's dark and streaky. And you can see the inlays kind of have a darker brown kind of hue to them, which is a little different than some of the other Gibsons of other eras. We got our 70s style headstock, which is nice and clean. You see the lacquer is ambered over a little bit, so the Gibson logo is a little bit yellow. This is a mother of pearl inlay. And then the truss rod is in really nice shape. It turns freely and there's no thread showing at all. So that's nice to see. So I just took off one of the machine heads to confirm, and this was indeed reamed out to fit the larger shaft of the new machine head. So the original tuners were the Kluson double ring tuners, and they had like a smaller shaft. So when those ones broke down because the plastic would kind of eat away at those ones. And then when they were to be replaced, all the other modern machine heads had the larger shaft. So you'd have to ream these out to make them fit. And here's a look at the new tuners. These are the Schaller made in Germany ones. They're great tuners. Alright, let's just go over condition. We had some bumps and dings on the top of the headstock, but the face of the headstock looks quite nice. There's some slight string change scratches and stuff like that. Got the original truss cover with the original nut, and our truss rod looks great. Again, the condition of the fingerboard's good. We've got a little bit of fingernail wear there, but the frets aren't chewed up at all, and the fingerboard looks to be in nice shape. And then parts on the top are all original knobs and switch tip, bridge, tailpiece. And the top's in quite nice shape. If you get in the light, you can see a couple impressions and scratches, some clouding. But the top looks really good for the age of the instrument for sure. A little bit more of a look there. And then on the back is where most of the wear is. You can see around the edge there's lots of marks and dings and buckle rash that is worn through to the wood. Just natural aging. Better look at the sides. Some of the finish is worn off in a couple areas, but and there's our original strap pin, and then the other original strap pin. Moving on to the neck, we can see our nice 3-piece maple neck. Another thing I wanted to mention is on these guitars they bursted the front, they bursted the back, they bursted the neck, everything. Yeah, 3-piece maple neck. There's no major like impressions or dings in the neck. There's some slight marks and stuff. And the finish is worn through from play on the neck. Feels nice and smooth though. And then we've got our 70s volute, which was on a lot of Gibson models. And we can see our Schallers have been swapped out there. And our serial number. And some more wear on the edge of the headstock. So yeah, used but not abused. And again, this guitar was heavily gigged. Usually that happens with the good ones. Alright, now I'm going to go ahead and restring it, set it up, and we'll check the setup. So using a Blacklight on a vintage instrument is helpful to see if there's been any repairs or anything you can't really see in the light. Like something like a finish touch-up will glow differently on a guitar, so it's pretty obvious if you use a Blacklight. Also, sometimes if the knobs aren't original, they won't be glowing as much as the rest of the guitar. You can tell that a part has been replaced sometimes that way. And you can really see where the finish is worn off with a Blacklight as well. So the top on this guitar is glowing like it should. You can see the areas on the edge where there is finish missing, but that's just due to wear. And our knobs are glowing nice and uniformly like the rest of the guitar. So that tells us that it's probably the same age as the rest of the guitar. So those are likely original knobs. Moving up the neck here. And our headstock looks good. You can just see the wear at the sides, but it looks like there has been no finish touch-ups or anything. Just going to go ahead and flip the guitar. And then here on the back you can see exactly where all the finish has been worn off from the buckle rash. And especially along the sides here you can see a lot of the finish is missing. and moving up the neck. So yeah, you can totally see where the finish is worn off the neck. That's just due to playing the guitar so much over time. This guitar was extensively played. And then our headstock in this area, you'd be able to see lines and stuff if there's been a finish repair, or a headstock repair rather, and it all looks good there. So yeah, everything is glowing the way that you'd expect it. Managed to get quite a nice setup on this old Gibson. So using my notched straight edge, you can see that there's very little space between the straight edge and the fingerboard, so that tells me the truss rod is set nice and tight. And then here in the 3rd fret area, you can see that when I use the 3rd fret, that the string is resting just gently on that 1st fret, so that tells me I've got nice low action and a well-cut nut. And then here at the 12th fret, we can see, using my depth gauge, that the low E is sitting between a 0.75 and a 1, and the high E, same thing, sitting between a 0.75 and a 1 millimeter. So nice low action. So I'm just going to go through the entire fingerboard to make sure that there's no buzzing or fretting out anywhere. I like to speed up this part, but if you want to hear it in real time, just slow down your player to 25%. So yeah, no buzzing or fretting out anywhere, and it's got really nice low action. There's no neck dive on this guitar, and acoustically it rings out really nice with tons of sustain. It vibrates all over quite nicely too. Alright, let's get some neck specs. Width at the nut is a 1.70 or a 43.29 millimeters. And at the 12th fret, 2.01 inches or 51.26 millimeters. Neck depth at the 1st fret is a 0.826 inches or a 20.99 millimeters. And at the 12th fret, that's a 0.95 inches or 24.36 millimeters. Alright, so here's a look at our neck profile. So it's a C shape. It's a little bit more of a flatter C, not quite a D, but not quite as rounded as some. And it keeps that shape even by the 12th fret. And the neck feels good. It's a little bit not quite as rounded as some, a little bit flatter of a profile, and good width. It feels good. Let's go ahead and plug this in and see how it sounds. Plugged into a 1965 Fender Bassman. Here are my settings, and I'm using a Flint Strymon for just a little bit of reverb, and I'm going to be just increasing the volume on the amp for extra gain when I go to the overdrive section. We're just going to go through each position clean and then overdriven. I'm miking up a 212 cab with the SM57, a Shure, and I'm using an Audio-Technica AT2020 for the room. So yeah, it really does sound great clean. The bridge pickup has a lot of bite, but the neck pickup kind of bounces out. I find this middle is a really nice tone for both of them. But yeah, really great tones. I'm going to go ahead and crank up the amp a little bit and we'll get some overdrive. right, final thoughts on this 1974 Gibson Les Paul Deluxe in Tobacco Sunburst. What can I say? This is an old vintage Gibson that lives up to the hype. It plays and sounds great. These pickups are awesome. They're just an insanely nice combination of like a humbucker and a P90. You just get such nice crisp highs. They're so articulate and they take distortion well. They're just a treat to play. This guitar is nice and light compared to other examples of this era. 9 pounds is extremely manageable. It feels great. The frets still have lots of life. They have that wide, thin frets, but it's super easy to play. The action is like very, very nice and low. And there's lots of room left to go on the bridge, so the neck angle is good. The bridge isn't collapsed. This is all the original parts, which is great, except for the output jack and the machine heads. Everything else is original. And I can see why this guitar was so heavily played. It's a good one, for sure. It's resonant, it's articulate, it vibrates a lot, and it just feels great to play. Condition-wise, it's pretty good. Like the front of the guitar looks great. There's checking and a few bumps and dings here and there. The back's a little bit worn due to playing. Someone was on stage with this with a belt buckle for a lot of years, and it wore through to the finish. But it kind of looks that, you know, that Murphy age relic kind of a look, but for real. The neck is a little bit worn, like the finish is worn through, but it feels super nice and smooth to play. And overall, I was just really impressed with it, especially the pickups. I wasn't expecting to like them that much, but they're great. So if you've never tried a Deluxe before, I definitely say give them a shot, because if you like P90s, if you like humbuckers, these fall somewhere in the middle. And I don't know if it's just this set in particular, but they sound really, really good. And as much as I would love to keep this guitar, I've got a really special guitar on the way from Japan right now that I've got to pay for. So this one will be up for sale on the Reverb page. It comes with the original case, and yeah, it's a good one. But that's going to be it for today. Thank you for tuning into Beckler Guitars and Repair, and I'll have more for you really soon. Thanks a lot.